Observations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
I've heard it said before, like, it was a very smart man named Robert Meyer Burnett who said the currency of our current age is authenticity. And it's so true.
Imagination Connoisseurs Unlimited, in association with Max Allen Collins Productions, presents True Noir, the assassination of Anton Cermak. You all know it's coming. We've got 15 more days in the Kickstarter. We need to raise $10,000 more, and let me tell you, we're in the final stretch of recording. Some people ask, hey, Rob, who's your star? Who's playing Nathan Heller? A man who's in 52% of our script. I can tell you that. I have an answer. As a matter of fact, I'll be working, or am working, with this person. But I'm not going to tell you who it is yet. No siree. But it's pretty exciting. And I have to tell you, we have the right man for the job. Greetings, Imagination Connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your evangelist of the imagination, and of course, the perhaps never to be defined, Mr. Existential, Mr. Rogers. That's right, me coming at you, Robcasting at you. Robert Meyer Burnett here, coming from the Rob Observatory. It's Robservations episode number 987. I have an announcement to make. For all of you. You know, we're 13 shows away from the 1,000th show. Now, I'm still planning on doing a 1,000-minute show, which is about 16 hours. Now, I was planning on interviewing celebrities, kind of like I did for the 400th, but because I've been so busy doing my own work on True Noir, that hasn't gone as well as I'd hoped. So here's what I've decided to do instead. My guests on the show, and I don't have very much time to put this together, are going to be you. That's right. I'm going to schedule Imagination Connoisseurs to be guests on this show, and I'm going to schedule you. I'm going to make a schedule, and I'm going to give everybody a half an hour. Unless you're a total douchebag, then I'll 86 you from the airlock and you're gone. But anybody who wants to come on this show, anybody who's an Imagination Connoisseur, anybody who wants to talk to me, anybody who wants to give me shit, take up something, say something, I don't know. Come at me, bro. Anybody who wants to come on this show, the 1,000th episode of this show is going to celebrate you, my audience. You, Imagination Connoisseurs. This channel has I think it's got over 12 million views. I mean, it's only been around for 6 years, and I know I could be doing more, and I could up those numbers, but, you know, I couldn't have edited and produced Tango Shalom or White Devils or now True Noir, all the other stuff I do. So, but that's what the 1,000 show is going to be about. I've decided to flip it. I could do more celebrity interviews, but now everyone's doing celebrity interviews. You know what everybody's not doing? Interviewing their audience. I want to know the state of Imagination Connoisseurs in 2024. Hopefully I'll do 13 shows before the election. How are you feeling about 2024? What are you thinking about 2024? I don't know. But what I want to do is I want to have people on this show that haven't necessarily been on this show before. And I'm going to try, and what I want to do is State of the Union of Imagination Connoisseurs. I want to see where it's going, where you're at, where we're headed, how you're feeling. So I'm going to make a schedule, and that's what I am planning to do. Hopefully, you'll take this trip with me, I would hope, and we shall see. So that's going to be the new plan for the 1,000 show. It's going to be about you. Now, I bet some of you are worrying about whether or not I'm going to spoil this movie, Strange Darling. But before I get into the topic at hand, I want to talk about Strange Darling. And I want to talk about cinema, the state of cinema. And I'll tell you something. I think we all go to the movies to be transported. We want to be entertained. We want to be surprised. We want to have an emotional connection. And for someone like myself who's getting up in years, as far as the YouTube space is concerned, I'm getting older. Maybe not as old as Paul Chatto, right, Paul? But I'm getting there. I'm close. I'm getting there. And I've seen a lot of movies in my life. And you're always looking, when you see a lot of movies and you read a lot of books and you've been a consumer of many stories, they don't tend to surprise you. You can second guess them. You know where they're going. And that's okay. You go on the journey, and if it's cool, it's cool. But sometimes a movie comes out that you can't anticipate, that you don't know where it's going. And those are the movies that I find myself cherishing. Strange Darling is a movie like that. And I was actually surprised and elated by the time I got to the end of the film. I had no idea where this movie was going, and when it started going where it was going, I had no idea where it was going after it started where it was going, and I still didn't know. And I left the theater with a big smile on my face. And it's why you go to the movies. Now, here's the thing. You have to, this is, of course, at scale. It's not Apocalypse fucking Now. You go, every time I watch Apocalypse Now, and I, believe it or not, I watch it a lot. I am astonished by the technique. Rakim, don't sweat the technique. I don't, but man, when it comes to Apocalypse Now, a movie like that, like Lawrence of Arabia, will never, ever, 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 ever be made again. And when I watch Apocalypse Now, everything about that movie stuns me. The sound design, the cinematography, the acting, the verisimilitude, peak verisimilitude. It's a stunning movie. So I'm not saying that Strange Darling is like Apocalypse Now. I'm talking about Strange Darling. You got to look at it at scale. Like, I remember when I went and saw The Hitcher. I was in college. Robert Harmon's The Hitcher. The one with C. Thomas Howell and Rutger Hauer. That Hitcher. So I remember going to that movie, and I want to say that my college roommate, Todd Stanley, my best friend in college and all that. I love you, Todd. Hope you're okay right now. And we went and saw the movie. Now, it looked cool. But when it started, Robert Harmon directed it, the cinematography, Mark Isham's score, everything about that movie was I had no idea where it was going to go. And the plot twists and turns delighted me. I didn't see them coming. And it was something that I just sat back and was like, wow. And when it was over, you had that elation of coming across a story that you've discovered. Now, I'm not saying you already can know that it has good reviews, but I'll tell you something. You know what I've discovered in life? You can read any review of a movie. You can read spoilers. You can have spoilers. Somebody can spoil a movie for you. I am not going to spoil Strange Darling. I'm not going to say shit about it. Except you, if you can, should all go see it and support it. Go into the theater. And you'll probably go in the theater this weekend. There might not be many people in there because not many people know it's even out or that it even exists. You might have read about the reception it had at Fantastic Fest and go, okay. The problem is a movie like Strange Darling, they don't have the money to put behind it to turn it into an event, even though it should have been turned into an event. All I can tell you is that Strange Darling will give you the kind of jolt that you want to get from a movie. For the kind of movie that it is. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying it's going to change your life. But for the kind of movie it is, if you're looking for something that seems familiar but turns out to not be familiar and takes you places you didn't know you wanted to go, Strange Darling is your movie. And that's what I'm looking for from all movies. And the thing was, it used to be that a lot more movies were like that. And maybe it's because I've seen so many movies now, so many things are so familiar to me. But even the big tentpole movies, like I keep saying this, I liked Deadpool and Wolverine. It was fine. It was entertaining. But it certainly didn't take me to the places, or I did not have I laughed my ass off, but I wanted more from it. The storyline was pretty inconsequential. It didn't really matter. And I know at the end they wanted to hit you with the emotional wallop, which really didn't work. I wanted what I wanted from Deadpool and Wolverine, which is unfair from a Deadpool movie, because I really loved Deadpool 1. I really did. But like I said on the show, I wanted to be taken on the journey that Days of Future Past took me on. As a longtime X-Men fan, I found myself, I got to go exactly where I wanted to go. It took me where I wanted to go. And so Strange Darling is a movie that deserves eyeballs on it. And trust the Bobster here. Don't go to Wikipedia. Don't read any fucking reviews. You don't need to. All you need is me to tell you to go see Strange Darling. And I take your friends. And make sure you're going with people that don't know what happened. And just remember, when you watch it, you'll remember why you go to the movies in the first place. You'll remember. And it's that thrill of discovery. It's like, I was thinking about, take Back to the Future, which is a near perfect movie. It really is. But when Back to the Future opens, do you remember the first shot in Back to the Future? It's in Doc Brown's house, and the camera is panning over all of these different clocks. And there's a whimsy to that first shot of all those clocks there. And what it does is it settles you down into the feeling that the movie is going to fill you with. And from that first shot, it's whimsical, but it also is telling you something. And then, of course, you see Einstein's, it dumps the food into the bowl again. Clearly, Einstein's been gone, which means Doc Brown's been gone. But movies used to know how to do that. And I think, honestly, people were, I dare say that it's not that there aren't good filmmakers around today, but there are very few filmmakers around that really understand the language of cinema the way people used to. Another thing, I just was clicking through, I don't know if it was YouTube or something, and scene from Aliens. Perfect example. Scene from Aliens. It's the scene where they've got the motion trackers and they don't know where the aliens are, and Hudson's like, they're in the room, man. And then Hicks looks up to the ceiling, and then he takes his light, and he does the thing, and you see, they only had 6 alien suits when they made Aliens, okay? That's how they made movies back then. But you see the aliens coming at you, and it looks like they're on the ceiling. I mean, they probably just turn the camera. It's so... Go back. This is what I used to do when I was, I still do this. I will, as an editor, the only way I know if my edits work is I turn off the sound and I watch my edits. And sometimes I'll frame fuck them. I'll go, that needs 2 frames gone or whatever. Try this just as an exercise. Pick your favorite scene in a movie. It could be a dialogue scene. It could be an action scene. It could be any scene. Turn off the sound and just watch the shots. And watch the scene over a couple times. At first you watch it with the sound on. Watch the scene. And because the motion trackers in that particular scene are really important too. The sound effects, the boom, boom, boom. It's basically giving you an underscore. The sound effects are actually scoring the scene, even though James Horner's score kicks in. But it's an amazingly orchestrated scene. Then turn off the sound and watch it again. Actually, watch it multiple times. And concentrate on the shots. And concentrate on how suspense is being built. See, I believe my theory of editing is you only cut when you've already conveyed whatever information the shot was going to convey. And it could be any kinds of information. It could be dialogue. It could be an image, like if it's a picture of a receipt that is pertinent to the story or whatever. When you edit is when the information that you wanted to convey in the shot has been conveyed. There's nothing more that the shot has to say, and then you cut away to another shot. And what you should be doing is you are telling us, it's almost like sentences, well-written sentences in prose. I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever made the elements of style for filmmaking. I mean, probably with ChatGPT, no one's going to need Strunk and White's elements of style, but anybody who's a good writer or knows anything about writing knows what the elements of style are. It's a small little book that every writer should have sitting next to his desk that just, it doesn't tell you how to write, but it gives you the mechanics of how writing works. Invaluable. But when you watch that alien scene, the shot choices, The way that James Cameron, I mean, it's no surprise that James Cameron is an incredible director. He's more of a meat and potatoes director, because it's not basic what he's doing, but what he's doing is so good. But he's doing it in a very matter-of-fact way. But nobody does it better than him. Same's true of writing his stories. People are like, oh, James Cameron's not a good writer. I'd say he is. Because the lane that he's in, he's the best guy who ever lived in that lane. And I call it populist, call it what you want. But the man knows what he's doing. And if you watch that scene in Aliens, just watch the shot choices and how he builds up and how he speeds things up, slows things down. And when you get to Hicks and you see his face, and it's almost agonizing when he goes up there with his light and he has to turn. I mean, those aliens are right on top of him, but the way he can slow the scene down and you're waiting for Hicks to look, and then when you finally see what's happening, they're coming at you like wicked lickety split, and you're like, oh shit, and then let's rock, and the whole thing. It's an incredible sequence, and it's why we go to the movies. And I feel that part of the problem, especially in a lot of our tentpole movies, is they're not made well enough because they're only product. Now, I want to give a big shout out to Disney. I know, why should I give a shout out to Disney? But I'm going to give a shout out to Disney. This week, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes came out on 4K. Why it doesn't have Dolby Vision? Well, that sucks. So, okay, maybe Disney's not so great. But they did put one of the great special features of all time. Look, it's hard enough to get special features at all. But Disney has a side-by-side, picture-in-picture with commentary of the finished Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and then all the actors in their motion capture suits. And you can basically watch it side by side. It's a brilliant special feature. I've done things like that before, but not like this. Not like how motion capture and special effects work. Genius. I don't know if that was Steve Asbell, the president of 20th Century Studios, who came up with that. I don't know if it was the filmmakers who came up with that. Maybe they say so on the disc. I only took a cursory glance at it, but it's amazing. It's amazing. Check it out. But anyway, it's that feeling that we get when we watch movies, made by people that really know what they're doing. Strange Darling does it. It really does it. But again, going cold, I'm not going to tell you anything about it. I'm just going to say that I think it stands as an example, one of the better examples in a long time of why we go to the movies. It gives us a sense of discovery, of seeing something we've never seen before. That's the kick. Like in that opening shot of Back to the Future, the camera's panning around. We don't know where it's taking us. And where it takes us is Einstein's dog food being opened. That's not where we thought it was going to go. Then we meet Marty McFly for the first time. He comes in, he's looking around, he's been to Doc Brown's house. There's a familiarity there. He can go wherever he wants. And then you see the biggest giant speaker you've ever seen. Marty McFly plugs the speaker. He plugs his guitar into the speaker. Boom, bow, and then the speaker blows him. Does that Memorex, the old Memorex, or was it Memorex? Yeah, Memorex. Blows him back. And what's interesting about that is also whimsical. I don't know if there's a lot of verisimilitude there. It's whimsical. The clocks are whimsical. Marty McFly plugging his guitar in is whimsical. The speaker's whimsical and blows him back. And then the whimsy quickly gives way to a more grounded reality where we meet Marty McFly. We see who he is. We see the milieu he lives in. Battle of the Bands, all the stuff that we get, which is pretty, normal. But the movie's already told you, hey, we're going to get whimsical, and if we get whimsical now, we're going to get whimsical again. That's what great direction is. And it leads you on a journey, and you don't know where you're going to go. And I remember I went and saw Back to the Future at a screening, pre-release screening. It was a exhibitor screening before it, like maybe a month before it came out, and it wasn't finished. And even then, I was sitting there with all the jaded exhibitors who've seen it all, and they were enchanted, taken someplace. The murmuring after the screening was amazing. And that's what people want from film. That's what we're looking for. The problem is, do we support that? Is Strange Darling Have you heard about it burning up the box office charts? No. Small company released it. They don't have the kind of money to put the push. I mean, I'm sure in order to get people to go to the theater en masse, they would have to spend 10 times the budget of what Strange... I don't know what Strange Darling cost. Maybe it's not 10 times, but a lot more than the budget of the actual film to market it in such a way to let people know what they're getting. They could never do that. Strange Darling should be a water cooler movie. People should be talking about it. I mean, the horror community is talking about it. Those that have gone. It's much more satisfying than Longlegs was. And yet, who knows about it? That's why I figure I know about it, and I'm telling you. Now, I want to read an article. Now, this is an article by Cole Haddon. I've read articles from him before. He wrote this book that I highly recommend. Although, wait a minute, before I show it to you, I'm embarrassed. Let me just wipe it off to make sure it's not dusty. He wrote this book, Psalms for the End of the World. If you have not read this book, I would recommend this book. And don't be... let's see. That's a holistic triumph, according to Dominic Nolan, and it's mystifying and finally heartbreaking. Fasten your seatbelt. Nicholas Meyer. Star Trek 2, Nicholas Meyer. And let me just see how many pages this book is, so I don't expect you to be... Okay, 525 pages. Don't let that stop you. Get this book, Psalms for the End of the World. Anyway, so Cole Haddon wrote this article and made me want to talk about this. The discovery of what we want to get from the movies. That sense of discovery. So here we go. This is ballsy. We all want to be the Christopher Columbus of cinema. People are going to be like, it's Christopher Columbus. Yeah, you know what? Before you get all angry about Christopher Columbus and the revisionist history, delve into the actual real history. Do a little reading about Christopher Columbus. You might come up with some things that you don't know. Anyway, Cole Haddon wrote this on July 6th, and I found it. Thought I would share it. Director Luca Guadagnino's new film, Challengers, leaped from the big screen to streaming a while ago. As soon as I read the news, I insisted that my wife sit down to watch it with me. She was confused because I'd just seen the film at the movie theater, but I told her I wanted her to see it too. I felt compelled to share it with her. As we're both filmmakers, our conversation quickly led to Challenger's exceptional box office and musing as to why it was so successful in a market where other notable films regularly tank. I argued it was because of people like me, the very high number of ticket buyers who saw it and felt the need to tell everyone about it because it was so much fun. Specifically, I said, this fun derived from the sense that we'd discovered something. I alluded to the American independent film movement of the late 20th century when you could regularly see new films and feel so blown away by their originality. How unexpected everything was about them. That you felt creatively invigorated for days and wanted to share it with everyone you know. I discussed this recently with indie producing legend Christine Vachon, and then you can read about it here, but I haven't read that article, but I will. What I'm describing here isn't a word of mouth, but the need to evangelize for a film, like I want to evangelize for Strange Darling. To believe in the experience of it so much that you must make converts of as many people as possible. What I'd like to discuss today is the sense of discovery that was, and still should be, integral to a healthy cinema ecosystem and culture in general. I regularly discuss the value of originality here at 5 a.m. Story Talk, as well as our collective desire to experience something new. But it's not just new we're after, is it? We want to sorry, I killed the punchline. We want to Christopher Columbus art. My reference to Columbus is intentional here, as he didn't actually discover anything, of course, and neither are any of us when we experience a film for the first time. But it sometimes feels like that when a movie happens, a feeling many of us also have with music, plays, novels, and so on. Our lives are momentarily and sometimes dramatically changed, not dissimilar to when we encounter something borderline numinous in nature. We want to make others understand the wonder we felt. We want to relive that first instance with them. And we'll probably spend the rest of our lives not entirely letting it go either. This is an effect I wager many of us recently had watching Barbie or Everything Everywhere All at Once for the first time, or going back further, Moulin Rouge, Before Sunrise, and Pulp Fiction, even further back, Star Wars, Annie Hall, Easy Rider, and so on. Each of these experiences felt like we were discovering cinema all over again, you might even say. Yes, I know. These aren't universal opinions. Maybe you hated some of these films. But they are cultural touchstones now, and I think it's safe to say the majority of us were deeply impacted by them in some way or another. What I can't help but wonder is this one of the reasons why Hollywood's 21st obsession with intellectual properties, specifically its endless train of big-budget sequels, remakes, and reboots, is producing increasingly diminishing returns at the box office? From where I sit, articulated this way, I find it hard to argue with this thesis. While what I'm describing is partially anecdotal, I know my experience of the theatrical experience, in particular, is far from unique. We crave and seek out new experiences in every aspect of our lives. We're always after that dopamine hit, however we can get it. So why should cinema be any different? When I look at the past decade or so of Hollywood releases in the context of what I'm describing, I find myself tired and largely uninspired. And I suspect you do too. Certainly, there's very little that left me feeling like I discovered something. I'm not saying I wasn't entertained and moved, but did I Christopher Columbus as many films as I did in the aughts? No, I did not. As for compared to the 90s, the only answer to that question is loud laughter. It's easy to say I'm biased against, say, superhero films, which I write about quite a bit here, but do I still enjoy them? But I do still enjoy them. What I don't do is feel excited by them anymore. How can one feel inspired by watching a variant of the same story from the same studio that's been pumping similar enough films out for 15 years? The fact that the idea of the multiverse has introduced endless variants to this conversation, removing true stakes from the cinematic experience, doesn't help. It only makes things worse and somehow feels more desperate. Mostly, though, I just feel existentially bored by this superhero obsession, and I doubt I'm alone. That's because the bar for new with superhero films is now so ridiculously high that you essentially have to shoehorn earlier iterations of the characters into a film, Spider-Man No Way Home, or smash actors and characters together in some absurd way to once again excite audiences otherwise numb to your tricks, Deadpool and Wolverine. I tend to believe that this is part of the reason why the DC Cinematic Universe has so far failed to match the Marvel Cinematic Universe's success, and probably will continue to underwhelm at the box office. By the time Warner Brothers began to abruptly force its characters into stories together, everything it was doing already felt familiar and uneventful in the marketplace of ideas known as Hollywood. I mean, if you're producing any kind of a popcorn movie that doesn't vibrate as an original event for audiences, you're pretty much fucked. Exceptions exist, but for the most part, audiences don't show up when they start to feel like they've seen something too many times before. While I am a massive fan of James Gunn, who has co-inherited the DC Universe from several troubled regimes before him, let's consider two comic book film series from him. In the case of the MCU's Guardians of the Galaxy, he launched a film trilogy that wowed audiences and critics alike. Hell, Guardians of the Galaxy was my favorite cinematic experience of 2014. Back in 2014, we were told this unknown property was a gamble by Marvel, but as it turns out, that's one of the biggest reasons it resonated with audiences. Its startling sense of originality. But a few years ago, Gunn wrote and directed the DC Suicide Squad sequel, doing his same trademark fun and irreverent take on a superhero group dynamic, albeit darker and more violent. It turned into a box office dud despite exceptional reviews. Why? I'd argue that as fun as that film looked, it also felt familiar in the context of everything else that was happening at movie theaters and maybe even Gunn's own oeuvre. It's difficult to evangelize for a cool experience that seems in any way like an experience you already evangelized for, is my point. This isn't to argue that audiences always show up when you give them something wholly original. Audiences are fickle and regularly reject the very kind of films they demand to be made. Very few low to mid-budget films like Challengers do break through anymore because of this. Consider, if you go to a restaurant that serves steak every night, even if the sauce and sides change, you're still eating steak. Is it any wonder you eventually get bored with the restaurant and stay home and make something different to eat instead? It's certainly been easy to do this with the ascendance of streamers providing you thousands of options to choose from, even if most of them aren't worth your time. But ironically, you can't count on streaming platforms to do more than what Hollywood tentpoles have done to the theatrical experience. In fact, they're even worse in this regard. That's because their algorithms create such a curated experience for you that the chance of discovering anything new is almost entirely eliminated from the viewing experience. Here's something independent film producer Joanna Vicente said back in 2019 when she was the executive director and co-head of the upcoming Toronto International Film Festival. The onslaught of large amounts of content, combined with large platforms' personalized curation, makes it all but impossible to discover new voices through traditional distribution. It is becoming harder and harder to stumble upon a film that ends up changing anyone's life. Perhaps the fact that so little on streaming platforms can inspire the sense of discovery is part of the reason why streamers have had so much difficulty creating zeitgeist moments similar to what movie theaters had regularly done for a century before them. If you constantly steer your viewers toward more of the same, then why would they ever feel that they need to evangelize for your films? From where I sit, until wider audiences learn to trust there will be something other than steak on the menu, that going to the movies is a way to experience something exciting and new, that the movies themselves are an opportunity to discover something that changes your life forever, then Hollywood's grasp on the theatrical experience will continue to wane, and with it, the influence it has on American cinema and American and international culture. The global theatrical experience everywhere will diminish, in turn, and the possibility of this keeps me up at night. So, man, I do hate Microsoft Update. Don't you? I do. I have a Mac, by the way. So I read that article and I thought, that's it, man. I mean, and then I was on the Critical Drinker show today talking, and I've seen this chart around. People have been looking at this. Here is a list of the movies that are coming out in 2025. Now, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger and get rid of the top there. I'll slide it up so you can see this chart. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Now, there aren't very many there. Look at this: Captain America, Brave New World, The Thunderbolts, Superman, Fantastic Four, Mickey 17, Paddington, Ryan Coogler's vampire film, Snow White, Minecraft, Flower Vale Street, Mission Impossible 8, Karate Kid, Megan 2.0, Elio, Ballerina, John Wick Story, How to Train Your Dragon live action, Jurassic World 4, which is now called Jurassic World Reboot, Damien Chazelle's next film, I'll see that. Paul Thomas Anderson's next film, I'll see that. Nobody 2, Saw 11, Tron, Ares, Mortal Kombat 2, Black Phone 2, Blade, Zootopia 2, Five Nights at Freddy's 2, Avatar, Wolfman, Scary Movie. I mean, the list goes on. Now You See Me 3, for God's sake. Conjuring 4, 28 years later. Now, there's a few things on this list that I want to see. I want to see F1, of course. I'm interested to see Thunderbolts as a new movie, but it's in the MCU, and what is it going to show us that's different from what we've seen before? Is it going to be Suicide Squad? Is it going to be Guardians of the Galaxy? I do want to see James Gunn's Superman to see what he does. Curious. Damien Chazelle's new film, I'll go see that. Tron Ares, I can't believe it got made, so I'll go see that. But really, what really interests me, is Paul Thomas Anderson's new film, or that kind of thing. Damien Chazelle and Paul Thomas Anderson's new film, because I always have something interesting to say, whether I love their movies or not. Kendrick Lamar and the guys from South Park are doing something. That'll be worth seeing. But a lot of this stuff, again, we know what we're getting. We know it's going to happen. We know where it's going to take us. I mean, look, am I interested to see what they do with 28 Years Later? Because I thought the first two were actually quite good. Sure. But the rage virus, I don't know. Is it going to be all the rage again? Who knows? I don't. And it's kind of, looking at this list, it's kind of depressing. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff coming out. But is it exciting? I mean, look, some of it's going to make money. But is that enough? I mean, in this culture, our entire culture seems that the end-all, be-all for everybody is just to get rich, 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 rich. And I understand with money comes power. I get it. But what about life, What about living a life where you're enjoying yourself? And are movies making us enjoy ourselves more? Or are we just mindless drones going in to see the next iteration of something we saw? Now, it's unfair. It's unfair for me to bang on something I've never seen. But Captain America Brave New World, we've heard how many times it's being reshot. I kind of like the trailer. But does Captain America Brave New World have a chance of being nearly as good as Captain America the Winter Soldier or Captain America Civil War? Those are the very highest of high bars. And the thing is, I would say that if you can't top that, if you can't do that, why make the movie at all? If your idea isn't working, or and the thing is, if you can never clear that bar, if you can never, like those movies, I believe both of them made $1 billion or close, why make another movie? It can only ever be, I mean, it could make money if it's good. I really like the Sam Wilson character, and I love Anthony Mackie's performance. I don't know why they just didn't keep him as Falcon, but I understand it was a comic book thing, and it could be great. But if you can't, like, the sequels, how many beloved films do we watch, and sequel after sequel after sequel do they have diminishing returns? A lot of them. And it's a bummer. And once you've seen so many things, like, I think, people talk about superhero fatigue, and I used to think it was, well, if the films are good, but even if they're good, they're not going to take us someplace we haven't been already, because the superhero paradigm is limited. I go back and I think to myself, I think about Hancock, and I'm like, what if they did Hancock in the MCU? I mean, they've already done Hancock, but if you had a character in the MCU like Hancock, but it was in universe, well, that'd be interesting. I mean, I don't think they'd ever do it, but it'd be interesting. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I mean, I'm feeling an overall sense of ennui about, not the Antonioni ennui trilogy I'm always talking about. I mean, a sense of, I don't know, malaise. It's getting to the point where maybe my journey with cinema is done. I can go back and I can watch the movies that I loved growing up that I've watched so many times, but they still give me that enjoyment because they were new. They were unto themselves. And, what you really want, I mean, I think the real danger and the real question that we should be asking is, are young people, and when I say young people, I'm talking about, I fell in love with movies when I was 5 years old. And all the way through my teen years, movies really mattered. They do not matter anymore to kids. They don't care. They don't care at all. There is no, and if they're growing up not wanting to watch movies, I'm not saying they won't watch movies, but they're not really interested. Some might be, but there's so many other things distracting them. You're never going to have a population that's going to grow up and continue to be movie lovers like we are. And I think that one of the problems that a lot of us are having, especially in the fan space as we get older, we're getting, I mean, when I was a fan, they weren't recycling things as much. You know, and now I've gotten to a point where so much of the things that I mean, when the new iteration of Fangoria that was published a couple of years ago, I always thought it was funny when they were doing cover stories or retrospective articles on movies that were already on the cover of Fangoria when they were new. And I got to thinking, like, is this where we're at? Like, everything is now, it's now repeating in a cycle. Like, why aren't we getting, when I was a kid, they might have done reboots or something, but not nearly as many as they did now. And for the most of my youth, I would say from the time I was 5 to the time I was 40, for the most part, movies delivered. You know, the 90s indie experience, the indie cinema experience with, I mean, you never knew what you were going to get. Whether you're going to see Sex, Lies, and Videotape, whether you're going to see Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs, whether you're going to see Chasing Amy or Clerks. Let me go back to Kevin Smith's first movie. I mean, it was all, I remember seeing Soderbergh's Kafka. God, try and find that movie today. But you got something that even if it wasn't the best thing in the world, it was something worthwhile. And it was something that you thought about, and it was something unique. Strange Darling is that thing. And I just wonder if we're ever going to get that again. And if we don't get it again, do we still just watch more of the same? Because I think at the end of the day, the reason that movies became as popular as they are is because they had so much emotion and truth in them. And the characters that we watched lived in our imaginations. They were larger than life. That's why movie stars were the gods they were of the 20th century. They were movie stars were they were the denizens of Hollywood. Was the Mount Olympus of the 20th century. And the gods were the actors that were on the screen. Can that happen again? Should it happen again? I don't know. But going into a Labor Day weekend, if you get a chance, get some friends and go see Strange Darling and see what it does to you. Because I would be very curious to see. Now, let me see if what you guys, if anybody has anything to say to add to that conversation. Actually, wow, it seems like lots of people have something to add to that conversation. So let's just jump into it and see. Oh, I hate when they do this. I'm looking at my account, and they kick me out to make sure I'm me while I'm broadcasting. That's not very nice. Really stupid, but whatever. Hopefully they'll let me back in so I can see what's going on my own channel as I'm live. YouTube's got to figure this stuff out, but hey, whatever. Let's get back into it and see what you guys are saying. So now I can get back into where I was. Where am I? Wow, there's a lot of people that are saying things. James Bonner says, "Hi, Rob. I just rewatched the 1979 Alien. My God, what a great piece of cinema. Damn thing didn't even need a sequel. No, but it did spawn one of the great sequels of all time that went in an entirely different direction and still great." Fat Steven says, "Happy birthday, Rob. Basic Instinct 3, The Search for Viagra, will make $1 billion. Much love." Okay, have you seen Sharon Stone? She's hot as fuck. Who needs Viagra? I've never needed Viagra in my life. I certainly never needed Hims. Ever. Even now I don't. And I'll tell you something. You could make a great Basic Instinct 3. I know how to do it, and it would work. I'm just saying. And Fat Steven also gifted 5 Burnettwork memberships. That's very nice of you. Thank you. Darren L. from Minnesota has been a member for 7 months. Thanks, buddy. Darren L. from Minnesota also said, "Rob, you and Red Letter Media praise this. Thank you." Well, let me tell you something. I've never met the guys from Red Letter Media, but I've loved them ever since I saw Plinkett's Generations review. That was what? Was that like 15 years ago or something? It was like still the greatest thing. This is the stupidest movie since my son or whatever. I mean, those Plinkett reviews of the Star Trek Next Generation movies were so good, but nothing like their takedowns of the prequels. And I've loved them ever since. But I've never talked to them. I've never met them. I've never spoken to them. Never streamed with them, but I still love them. Banjero 3 Says Ryan Coogler, 1930s vampire blues music film. Count me in. Ryan Coogler, I'll go see anything. A blues music, a period, a 1930s period vampire piece. Bring it on, man. That is like catnip to me. Laser Screwdriver says, not seeing it mentioned much, but I loved the score for Strange Darling and how it was used. Reminded me of 70s horror, 100%. And by the way, Giovanni Ribisi as the director of photography? There's a lot to love about this movie. You all should go see it. Go see Strange Darling. By the way, I want to point out, I'm not being paid to talk about Strange Darling, and I'm not doing it to curry favor with producer Roy Lee. There's a lot of producers on the movie, Strange Darling. But I will say this. The kind of experiences I want in the movies, Roy Lee, actually, you know what? If you guys haven't seen Boy Kills World, this is a hoot too. And I don't know where Roy Lee's coming up with these scripts, but they're amazing. He's got another movie coming out that I read the script for called Companion. Again, not a big budget movie. Delivers the goods. That's all we want. He's also producing right now. Francis Lawrence is directing The Long Walk, Richard Bachman, a.k.a. Stephen King's story. That was a cult novel when I was in junior high school at South Mercer Junior High. But Strange Darling, go see it, everybody. Major Chai Chai, hello, how are you? Saw The Wizard of Oz for the first time in the theater in January. Wow, when Dorothy opened the door revealing Oz for the first time, I cried. I know. Wait a minute, are you telling me it was the first time you saw it in the theater? Oh, for the first time in the theater in January. Yeah, I was. Although it'd be interesting if you told me you just seen it for the first time. MTH says, "Hey Rob, are you seeing Slingshot this weekend?" I don't know. I'm gonna try to catch up with a couple of movies this weekend. I'm gonna see what's playing, what's close. Yeah, we'll see. John from New York sends in a $20 super chat. That's very nice of you, John. Strange Darling was fantastic. The trailer was one of the few times I could say that it gave away nothing. I know. It gives away nothing. The reveal with... I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say what you said, but... Oh, you already posted it. People can see it. People can read it for themselves. I'm not going to say it. But the reveal of something was one of my favorites of the year. I agree. John, I'm glad you think so. Darren again says, Kyle Gellner is a really fascinating genre actor. Thoughts on him, Rob? He really captured me and my attention and gives me hope in smaller films. Totally agreed. I mean, that's the thing. Where do you think we found all the movie stars today? Where was Johnny Depp? Do you remember? He got pulled into a bed in A Nightmare on Elm Street. Shot up onto the ceiling. And that's the thing. There's a lot of really great actors they're not breaking through yet, but there's a lot of great people out there that are working and that are populating these films. And that's another reason to go see them. They'll probably be the stars of tomorrow. John from New York. This is his $20 super chat, and it's his 20th super chat for the channel. This year has been a strong year for indie films. Touch, Daddy-O, Strange Darlings, Late Night with the Devil, One Life, Ezra, just to name a few, have had a stronger emotional impact with me than major studio releases. All those are great films. I totally agree with you. And yet, we need more of that. We need, as Chris Gore will say, we need people need to have a bigger media diet. There's a lot of, I still, I love Past Lives. I love Past Lives. Major Chai Chai says, got any more film challenges? Ooh, do I have any more film challenges? Oh. I'm reluctant to that. I'm reluctant to do that one. Okay, I got one for you. It's a lot more palatable than the Ennui trilogy. You know what? Film challenge. This isn't so much a film challenge as a fascinating movie in general. It's black and white and it's made in the 60s, but that should not stop you. If you haven't seen it, John Frankenheimer's Seconds, starring Rock Hudson and Salome Jens, the head founder from Deep Space Nine. If you haven't seen Seconds, Maybe it's on the Criterion channel. Criterion did release it on Blu-ray. Seconds, John Frankenheimer. It's one of my favorite science fiction films. It is a science fiction film. It's kind of more along the lines of an extended Twilight Zone episode, but if you've never seen Seconds, actually, if you like speculative fiction like that, John Frankenheimer made, let's see, he's got a pantheon of these movies. Well, not really a pantheon. The Manchurian Candidate, the original. I mean, John Frankenheimer made, let's see, Birdman of Alcatraz, 7 Days in May, which is about a political coup. It's great to watch during the lead up to the presidential election. The Manchurian Candidates, The Train with Burt Lancaster, and Seconds. So those 5. So Birdman of Alcatraz, 7 Days in May, Manchurian Candidate, Seconds, and The Train. They're all good. Check them out. Fat Steven says that the savior of the theaters is collectible popcorn buckets. No, because they can never make any. If you don't go in the first 2 days, they're gone. You can't get them again. You can go buy them on YouTube. Jeremy says, any recommendations for good space horror? Well, yeah. I mean, the greatest modern space horror book is Blindsight, if you haven't read it. Peter Watts' Blindsight. It's Peter Watts' Blindsight's one of my favorite science fiction novels I've ever read. I think it came out in 2006. To come out, I've talked about it a lot on the show. If you haven't read it, you might have already read it. Everybody should get Blindsight. It'll give you an existential crisis, but it's a really enjoyable book, and it's very prophetic. I believe the future that it portrays in the beginning of the book. But space horror, man, Blindsight, that's the stuff. Get back to me. It's a tough one. Carlos Lima says, happy birthday, RMB. You're awesome. Never change. I can't believe you guys have kept that joke going. For what, since February now or something? Man, I cannot. This is too sweet. You know what? I can't. Sweet iced tea, man. I can't do it. Can't do it. It's good, but it's way too sweet. I just got to stick with the water, but it's pretty good. Carlos Lima has also been a member of the channel for 7 months. Joe Panora says, did you check out the director's cut of Napoleon? Not yet. In all of my spare time, if I'm not going to the movies, and like what I do is I try and sneak out to the Harkins theaters kind of around this time if I'm not doing a show, and check out their 10:30 shows. But yes, they dropped it. It's got 48 minutes more worth of footage. I will definitely check it out. I just haven't been able to check it out. We'll see. Darth Plato says, I have no faith in the Scott Napoleon cut. Well, Darth, I understand that. Maybe it'll be better, but, I don't know if that movie was any good in the first place. Tom Jr. Jackson celebrates 46 months of membership. Happy birthday, Rob. Past Lives is a relaxing film. I loved it. I started the happy birthday thing, right? Well, myself and Irene. I haven't seen Irene in a while. I hope she's doing well. Yeah, I know you guys started it, but you guys, it's not, everyone picked it up. People, they follow me around, dude, at other channels. Peter Cunnington says, I think if a movie can't be more than a movie, like sell toys and have a theme park and be part of a cinematic universe, then studios would rather not. Well, you're not wrong. I mean, the problem with that is it's their business. Studios are now, movie studios are not making movies for, like, it used to be a domestic market, and hopefully they would do well foreign. Now studios are only making movies for a global market. And I get it. I understand. But you're absolutely right. That's really, if they can't make a $200 million movie that makes $1 billion, they have no interest in doing it. But, that's not good. Area Man? I've started delving into books, Tolkien's Middle-earth, because, like you said, movies today have nothing to say to us. Well, I'll tell you, the great thing about great science fiction, fantasy, and horror, maybe not so much modern science fiction, fantasy, and horror, but science fiction, fantasy, and horror have been some of the most meaningful books I've ever read, which is pretty cool. 1001 Johnny says, in Japan, there is new spins on the same concept every year. New Kamen Rider, Super Sentai, Precure, and of course Ultraman. New heroes every time. I would like Sam Wilson to become Captain America for a new generation. American heroes don't change enough. Well, I can't agree. I can't agree with you more. It's just I don't know if they can do that. I mean, they can do it in the comics. I was one of the few people that loved what Hickman did with the X-Men, because I was bored to tears of the X-Men, but they did a great job. Darth Plato says postmodernism denies past art forms and classics. If past art forms ought to be discarded and ignored, then money is all that there is, money and power. Movie making without regard to art is just a cash grab. I couldn't agree with you more. It's absolutely true. Absolutely true. And it's too bad. But, I mean, what is money for? You can't take it with you. I mean, you know, I'm getting to the point where even I, as much as I like to collect all these tchotchkes, it's like, what? What are they for? Our friend Sonny Dominguez says Strange Darling was great. I saw it last night. Curious if there are any themes or commentary on society you gleamed. Oh, I did, because I did. I enjoyed feeling manipulated and then sent in a different direction regarding my thoughts and feelings toward the characters. Sonny, that's the greatest description of what you want to have happen in a movie theater I can possibly imagine. I enjoyed, let's read that one more time. I enjoyed feeling manipulated and then sent on a different direction regarding my thoughts and feelings toward characters. You can't ask for more than that for movies, because that is the way to be. I mean, that's what you want from a film. Sam Phillips says, Robert, my man, we need that Blu-ray collection video. I would love to see all the cool stuff you've got. Love this show. Well, thank you, Sam. It's coming. It's coming. It is. I promise. I'm almost done, but I've got so much stuff to still file. It's just insane. But I've been trying to get there. Everybody wants to see that collection video. I want to see that collection video mostly because if I can make a collection video, that means I've put everything away, which is good. And I just, some weeks I think I'm not going to get anything. Then all of a sudden stuff comes in the mail and just stacks up. I got a box from Warner Brothers. I'm like, oh my God, look what they sent me, which was great. MTH says, Rob, thoughts on Sidney Lumet's atomic scare masterpiece, Failsafe. It's a film that's disappeared from the zeitgeist and is better than Strangelove. Ooh, okay, MTH. Them's fighting words. Now, first of all, I love Failsafe. I do. I do love Failsafe. If you guys haven't seen Failsafe, and didn't George Clooney do a live version of that on TV? Failsafe is awesome. Failsafe, if you guys haven't seen Failsafe, it's very much, it would make a great counterpoint. It goes really well with Doctor Strangelove. But I don't think it's better than Doctor Strangelove. I think the difference is that Failsafe is a very somber, very serious movie. And Henry Fonda is the president, and it's really great. It's really great. If you haven't seen Failsafe, and it's completely chilling. And it was amazing that they were making those movies at the height just after the Cuban Missile Crisis and stuff. I mean, those are amazing. They're amazing movies. If you haven't seen Failsafe, check it out because it's really amazing. I love the movie. I own that movie, and I even had it on VHS when I was a kid. I used to love that movie. I watched that movie a lot, mostly because of the performances. That movie has some of the most riveting phone conversations I've ever seen in a movie ever. Major Chai Chai has been a member for 7 months. Thanks, Rob. I've watched The Train, one of my World War II faves. I've watched Wizard of Oz many times on TV. I just never seen it in the theater. Yeah, I to be honest, I hadn't seen it in the theater until they renovated the Chinese theater in 2015. And my friend Dave Hargrove and I went and saw it in the theater there for the first time, it was great. So yeah, I would say go see that. By the way, if you guys want to see another great powerhouse World War II action thriller, see Where Eagles Dare. It's great. If you haven't seen Where Eagles Dare, check it out. Well, listen, everybody. I want to thank you all for joining me on this short but sweet Robservations. An hour Robservations is short but sweet. I want to thank all of you for supporting the channel via Super Chats and Tips. And I would encourage, please help us out with True Noir. I promise you, and if you haven't heard it yet, I did drop a 6-track EP on the channel, on the Burnettwork channel, and you can listen to Alex Bornstein's 6 tracks of his music. And I'll tell you something, if you ever wanted an indicator of how good this series is actually going to be, listen to that music. That music gives you a great indication. And it looks like, I don't know what day, I don't know what the plans are, but it looks like we are going to be premiering probably the first 2 episodes of True Noir. We're gonna hold off until mid-October and probably premiere them at the New York City Comic Con. So the NYCC, and that goes from October 17th to the 20th. Yam will be there. I'm going to be there. So if you're in New York, come to the New York Comic Con. I still want to premiere True Noir in a movie theater, if we could do that, and play like the first 2 episodes. And the first 2 episodes have in them Vincent Pastore, Big Pussy Bumpin' Sarah for The Sopranos. David Strathairn plays Frank Nitti. Savario Guerrero plays Harry Lang. Louis Lombardi plays Harry Miller. Jeffrey Combs plays Anton Cermak. Katie Sackhoff plays Janie, Nathan Heller's fiance. PJ Byrne plays Barney Ross. PJ Byrne, who just got cast in the Rainmaker TV series. And Jesse Spencer plays Elliot Ness. Oh, and C. Thomas Howell is in episode 2, so you'd hear him as well. So all of those actors are in the first 2 episodes of True Noir. And I'm not going to tell you who Nathan Heller is. But soon I will. And I think everybody's going to be very happy. I was blown away. Blown away by our young Master Heller's performance. But on that note, everyone, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen and go over to Kickstarter, support True Noir, truenoir.co. It'll take you right there, or go to Kickstarter and look up True Noir. We got 15 days to meet our goal. Help us do it. Carry us over that threshold. Pre-order the series. I'm telling you, I think you can get it for $25. 10 episodes for $25. Great digital files. You can get them however you want. There's also Blu-rays and all kinds of stuff. You're going to love this. I'm telling you. And if no one else loves it, I love it, and I'm making it. I can't tell you how much fun it is to be putting all this together, because, man, it's good. And check out the EP, if you can. True Noir. And once again, really, everybody? I want to thank Tom Jr. Jackson for being a great moderator and for being a goof person. Most of all, I want to thank the audience. Now, if you want to come on the show, remember, for the 1,000 show, I'm going to bring audience members on. Major Chai Chai came on the show. But I want you guys to have a topic of something. I don't want to just have people come on and ramble. I want you to pitch me a topic, and we'll chat. And I'm going to think about it now, but I'm going to start. I'll set up something over the weekend about where you can send me your ideas and what you want to do, and I'll bring you on. And we'll probably do half-hour blocks. So, over 16 hours, how many people? Is that 32 people I can bring on? Yeesh. I'll have to figure out a way. I got a few interviews to play, but that'll be a tough one. 16-hour show. I'm going to do it. But it'll be fun. All right, everyone. Check out these, once again, the 2025 releases.